Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm here with David, who is the co-founder of LingoPie. So I'm going to let David introduce himself and we're just going to have a little chat. I'm going to ask him some questions about his company and how he kind of got started with all this. So David, let's hear it.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Nate. Co-founder, CEO of LingoPie, originally from New York, but now here in Israel, 10 years. So I got into language learning and basically through necessity, I moved here from Israel, from New York, and I was like, I got to figure out the language. How am I going to do this? Speak nothing. I started doing like really, like all the traditional classes. They have like really intensive, like 8 in the morning to like 5 o'clock in the afternoon classes. It's like, I enrolled 6 months. And it was like really challenging because I wasn't like a natural language learner. I hadn't studied like many languages. I did some Spanish and some French in high school, classic Greek as well, which did not go too well, but I gave it a really good shot. I can honestly say. But when I got here, so I did those classes, and then I just like the social experience was great, but I felt like I wasn't making massive progress. Which was really, really frustrating for me at the time when I moved here. And so, and then I would look around at all my like Israeli friends. I was like, what's going on? You guys all speak perfect English. Like, I go, I take a cab, I go order like a burger. Some of the dudes like talking to me in English. I'm like, why is that? Am I like so, is there something wrong with me that I can't get it? I'm in class, 8 in the morning at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not getting it. I'm reviewing, I'm coming home, I'm doing like hours of translation exercise. I'm buying like newspapers. Nothing is working. And then, so all my Israeli friends were like, dude, I just like watch TV shows and movies. I was like, that makes no sense to me. That's not how we're taught to learn. We're taught like to do it in this like really rigorous academic style, especially in America, where I grew up in. So I tried it myself. I started kind of playing around with watching TV shows and movies. And it's actually really interesting because here in Israel, every TV show and movie comes with what's called same language captions or, subtitles. They're usually, like in the US, we know that they're usually created for people who are deaf and hard of hearing to make it, easier to follow along. But generally speaking, you don't really run into them that often unless you're watching like foreign films, you have like, subtitles. But here in Israel, all the TV shows by default have them on, which was really weird. Like you watch a commercial, like why is there subtitles on a commercial? But it actually is because there's a lot of people. It's a hard language, and for me it was like it became this amazing way to learn. So I started watching and learning. Like I made my own little methodology. I would watch the video, look up stop the video, look up the word, write it down in a pad, transfer it to flashcard, and that's how I would go through like a whole TV show or movie. So like I remember like early on a 20-minute episode would take me literally like no joke 2 hours to watch.
I'm sure.
It's insane, but like I remember like the first couple times I did it, I'd like look at the clock and I was like, oh my god, that was 2 hours and that's like a 20-minute episode. Like, and that sounds, like when I tell that story to people, they're like, that sounds horrible. But really, it was like it's like that same binge feeling you get when you watch an amazing show, on Netflix or something.
Sure.
But I had it from a learning experience. That was like one of the first times I actually experienced it. And then I quickly saw that I was like making massive progress because I noticed a really interesting trend. As I watched, the runtime, the watch time would slow very quickly down to the runtime, episode by episode. So that's how I knew I was learning because I was watching. And TV and movies have like natural repetition in it.
Sure.
Right? It's like you don't need an algorithm to review. You just hear those words.
Right.
So that was like 10 years ago. And so like what I've been doing since then is just like working with different startups. I was like one of the first product managers at Fiverr, if you're familiar, and a bunch of other people. So like just doing like startups here and there, like working, trying to make a couple bucks. Right. And basically, yeah, that's how it is, right?
Right.
And in my last company I was involved in, that's where I met my co-founder, Roy. So he comes from the television world. It was like we were working at like a fintech startup, which is like, it's hard to get passionate about like fintech.
Sure.
So I was telling him about like my experience with like when I moved here learning language. He had lived in New York. He had like a big branding television production company doing commercials for like VH1, MTV, things like that. And he was just like, dude, that sounds amazing. Let's do it. So like we built a very, really, really kind of, let's say, super simple POC, like a really simple product, just to see if literally anyone in the world thought this was like an interesting idea besides me and Roy.
Sure.
And we threw it out, like very classic story. We threw it out on Reddit, okay? Literally, no joke, within hours, there was like thousands of people like, oh my God, I want this for Swedish, Mongolian, Swahili. It's like, that is crazy. Like, okay, I think we're onto something. So, like we did like, we raised a little bit of money. We built it. We like pushed, two guys, we were working in like almost like a co-working space and just like killing it for I would say like a year and a half. And then we like were able to then, like launch some more languages, get a couple other like investors really interested. And, today we're like, I would say like 60 people worldwide. So,
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, we got 6 languages live in the States. We're launching English in Brazil and English in Latin America, all kinds of other stuff going on as well.
Awesome.
So, yeah. Busy.
No, that's super. No, that's really cool. And it's interesting too how it was kind of this, I don't know. Steve Jobs has a great quote on this. I'm going to butcher this quote, but he kind of talks about like, going forward, what you're doing sometimes might not make the most sense, but looking back, it makes complete sense. And it's just interesting how it's like, okay, you kind of have your own little story of, hey, I had to learn the language. My friends are like, oh, we just watched TV. And then all of a sudden you meet a guy who works, and it's all like this serendipitous kind of thing. Super cool.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think, like, this is something that probably happened 10 years ago. And, like, it never occurred to me that this can be a thing that you kind of create a product around, add some technology, content, and now it's like people are going to pay for it. They're going to want it,
Sure.
So, yeah, I totally agree.
So, okay, a question I have for you. Explain to us what LingoPie is, because obviously you and I know what it is, but from my perspective as someone who has used it and checked it out myself, LingoPie is not this like insanely complicated software. However, like you said, it doesn't really need to be this complex thing. It's really like immerse yourself in the language, and like what I love about LingoPie actually is how, first of all, it's so easy because of, the translations are already right there. I don't have to look it up. But also the flashcards that you guys create, that is like a holy grail for learning new vocabulary when learning a language.
Totally. Yeah, like what we try to do is, so we want to start with, we want to allow people to learn in a way that they already love to do something, which is watch great TV shows and movies, and also tied to culture. So again, immersion. So like you're learning Spanish, so you should be watching Spanish TV shows from Mexico, Argentina, other places, and like exploring the culture, how the people live, eat, talk, because that's really the most interesting way to learn, I think. Most people don't learn a language for like, I call it like the academic lust, the linguistic pursuit of just grammar and vocabulary. Most people learn a language to connect with other people. And I think that's really what makes like language learning with TV shows and movies amazing. And that's really like what we want to do. It's that context that we want to build. So the way the product is built is we license amazing content. We work with some of the biggest production companies and broadcasters, in the world. So like in Spain, it's RTV, and like Mexico, like TV Azteca, and in Colombia, Caracol, and many others. We take that content, we load it into our platform, then we add this kind of interactive language learning layer on top of it. It allows you to click on, let's call it the same language subtitles. So Spanish TV show, Spanish subtitles, you click on words, you get instant translation of the words or phrases that kind of allow you to immerse and to engage with that content and have like fun and really get a binge experience while you're watching. And I think that's super important because short of living in a country you're just not going to get that kind of immersive experience. You know, so like, I don't care how many trips you take to like, buy, so yeah, that's kind of what we're going for. It's kind of that really immersive experience. So as a person's watching, we're saving all those different words and everything he's doing, everything he's clicking on, so he can review it after each and every session with interactive flashcards. We're adding quizzes now.
Cool.
We're building like lessons. So the challenge here with this, when we're doing language learning with TV shows and movies, like real TV shows or movies are built for entertainment. It's like totally unstructured content. It's not made for education. If it was, it wouldn't be entertainment. Right? So that's the challenge, is like build a structure, build a system for learning around content that's totally unstructured, and kind of make it systematic, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. So for beginners, for example, we built this really cool feature called Mashup, which we use like natural language processing, like AI, like magic technology, which kind of blends the two together. So we'll take Spanish subtitle, let's say you're learning Spanish, with English subtitle, we'll blend them together to like cherry pick certain words that we think a beginner should learn. And as he watches, we'll like just show him that Spanish word over and over again, and then we'll track if he's learning it, and we'll show him new words. So again, the challenge here is to make the experience entertaining for a beginner and not too challenging, but immersive.
Sure.
You get what I mean?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that's kind of, we're always kind of trying to innovate, talking to customers, really, but always around immersion and always around the context of the show. So with the flashcards, if you notice, like whatever word you clicked on will show you the little video, the snippet of the video, of the context of how that word was used from the video. So that's the thing. It's like we want you to learn with video, and always like tying it back so you have like memory recall of how it was used, and that kind of just like bring you back to into the show or into the movie.
Sure. Huh. Okay. This is super interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got some questions written down here. Let me read off some. But I think so far it's been super interesting what you said about also the Reddit thing. I think is so funny. I think that's so interesting what you said about Reddit.
Yeah, Reddit is a great platform. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. What have been the biggest challenges you've had to overcome with your company?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it's there's always challenges every day. I think it's there's like the standard challenges of running a business, but I think on just like building a product, we're really trying to kind of build the best language language learning system possible. And that's kind of so we're always trying to talk to users, really try to understand what they need. And there's so many different types of users, so many different types of language learners out there: beginners, intermediate, advanced. And like if you look at the numbers around language learning, they're pretty crazy. It's like worse than any gym out there. It's like 99% of all language learners give up within 12 months. It's like crazy.
Wow.
And even if you look at like all the big language learning apps that the Duolingo, the Babbel, the Memorizes out there, all the big ones, Rosetta Stone, you have like 90% churn within 10 days.
Wow.
So like all the people who start, they just give up because it's like really traditional. It's like very traditional learning.
Sure.
With those systems. And so like for us, we're always trying to think like, how can we make this super entertaining while giving you a learning experience? And I think that's really hard because you have to you can't just take the easy way, which is translation exercises, just take what we did offline for hundreds of years or thousands of years and just like put it in an app and throw some gamification around it, and now start learning. And so what we're always so for us, it's always like speaking to users, trying to understand how can we create something super engaging? And I think that's it, and there's lots of testing, working with, different, people in different levels to see what works.
Sure.
Yeah. So we make mistakes all the time, honestly. But then,
Sure.
but I think that's kind of the process of building an awesome product and an awesome platform. Is like you learn your mistakes and then you continue to iterate on it.
Sure.
I don't know if that's a good enough answer.
No, that is. Okay, so another thing that I'm curious about is okay, two questions. How do you go about licensing shows and movies, and is that extremely challenging?
Yes. So we are extremely lucky because, our head of licensing is like a super experienced guy. He was like the head of like the children's channel here in Israel and one of the biggest movie channels, one of the biggest production. He's like 20, 30 years of experience. So we were able to kind of, we recruited him to be able to really build out this like licensing arm. So like when we work with our content partners, again, we work with like the biggest, some of the biggest in the world. And so, like when they see us as like a VOD platform. They see us like this like interactive, niche, Netflix type platform. They don't see us as like this language learning platform or like a education platform because they wouldn't be interested in like licensing their content to us, because that's their IP, and they want someone to treat it with like, the highest degree of like, respect and, it's like they spend tons of money on these things. So from that perspective, they want to deal with like a television company. So to them, we're a television company, like this VOD platform. To our users, we're like this like kind of language learning experience that's using television film. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're putting that all together with our partners. Yeah, it's taken, it took us a long time to really build these relationships and build that model. But, they love us because we're taking content. So like imagine the content that's being created for Argentina. Well, they'll sell it around maybe the Latin-speaking world, but like, they don't have access to the audiences that we are creating. So what we're doing is like what LingoPie does is like it takes content, TV shows and movies, we add this like layer of technology around it, which makes it now super valuable for like new audiences around the world, which really no one has access to. It's like we're not inventing, Spanish TV shows and movies. Like that's not what we do. Mm-hmm. But what we are doing is we make that content accessible for a totally new audience of people around the world, and that's why our partners love to work with us because it's like we can do this for them, and and again give them access to like new audiences in many different places. And on our side, we love, we get to provide an amazing service for people, who want to learn a language, sure. Who aren't living in let's say, in that place and potentially don't have access to that content. So sure. If you look at our library around like Spanish content, like we're getting, in many parts of the world, like our Spanish speaking content library, like is as big as Netflix and, in some places bigger, depending on the geography. And as we build our library, like you'll see that our international library of content, again, it's gonna, it rivals, Netflix at this point with kind of, how many titles we have in all the different languages. And, so that's the thing, because we need to cover all, every language we cover, whether it's Spanish, Portuguese, German, Russian, Italian, and now English. It's like you have to have a ton of stuff there to keep people interested and excited.
Sure, definitely.
I hope that's I hope that.
Yeah. No, that's great. Okay,
so we work. So I'll tell you, like we also work with big majors, like big major, like massive companies, like as I said, like RTV, which is like the BBC of Spain. But we'll also work with like super independent filmmakers who are doing shorts and web series, other guys who are, like documentaries, docu-series, all kinds of things, because we find that different types of people, whether you're beginner or intermediate, again, they're interested in different things. So someone like, like you, Nate, probably is, he could probably sit through a movie fairly easily. You're probably going to learn some slang, maybe like check out some, some local dialects. some local things that maybe you weren't familiar with. But like a beginner, he's not gonna be able to sit through a whole movie. Maybe he's gonna sit through a cartoon or a web series or something like that.
Sure.
That's probably more bite-sized, that allow him to kind of binge, episodically.
Sure, definitely. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've seen some of that content on LingoPie. And when did you guys launch LingoPie?
So we launched, like I said, the initial beta, which was like free. It was actually to teach Russian. That was because that was the content we could get our hands on, and it didn't really matter because we just wanted to like feel
Sure.
what people were on. I actually was doing this thing called Y Combinator Startup School.
Oh,
So
I've heard about this.
Kind of accelerator. It's really cool, and they hook you up with all kinds of other entrepreneurs around the world. It was virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of meet up, you talk about stuff, and then you also track your progress and you post your progress.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really important, and the whole thing there was pushing you to launch. It doesn't matter how bad your product is in the beginning, just launch because you're gonna learn.
Sure.
Otherwise, you never get it out there. So the first product we launched, it was let's say Russian TV shows with only Russian subtitles. There's no translation subtitles. There's no English. So it's and the translation engine. So today we have a very sophisticated translation engine with AI, NLP. It's machine learning, all kinds of fun stuff in there. But then it was just super simple, one-to-one translations, machine translations, which were not great, but people, because it was so different for people, and they kind of just oh my god, I want it, and again, it kind of took it in, and as we grew, you start with early adapters, and you're able to build more and more on top of that.
Sure.
And then the product improves, the TV shows improve, the product improves, we add new features. We just recently launched the iOS and Android applications. Cool. We're launching lots of other features all the time now because we have the team and the resources to do it, and
Sure.
That's our vision. Our goal is to continue to create more features and products to help people.
Sure. Man, that's awesome. Wow. All right. Well,
yeah.
Thank you, David. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks for sharing your story. And if you're interested in learning, let's see, Spanish, Portuguese, I think you've got Italian now, right?
Italian, German, Russian, yeah.
Okay, there you go. So if you want to learn any of those, make sure to check out lingopie.com.
Yeah.
Thanks again for chatting with me.
Thank you. This has been amazing. I appreciate your time, and everyone, check us out, and look forward to everything. Cheers.
Awesome. All right. Adios.
Adios.